back to the Fiercely Fueled podcast. I have a special guest here with me today, one of our Fiercely Fueled coaches, Henrik Pálsson. So Henrik has a really impressive list of credentials. Actually, he is the current vice president of the Icelandic Powerlifting Federation. He has been a referee and a coach and handler for the Icelandic national powerlifting team and competes internationally himself, setting several national records and getting to the podium at European Masters Championships as well. And so when he's not lifting and being a nutrition coach, he also partakes in tons of outdoor activities, as I feel like seems fit for someone living in Iceland. So mountain biking, hiking, and you don't just hike in among the trees. You're in mountains and glaciers and some really cool places. So welcome to the show, Henrik.
Thank you, Kristen. Thank you. Happy to be here.
I'm excited. This is the first of many episodes that you will be on. And so one of the things when we were coming up with ideas as a team for podcast episodes, this was a topic you really felt you wanted to talk about because there's a lot of unrealistic expectations out there and a lot of people promoting unrealistic expectations. So today we're going to talk all about the realistic rate of fat loss and muscle gain, specifically as it applies to an athlete who cares about their performance, because there are different rules for someone who cares about their performance versus someone who's just lifting for aesthetic or health reasons.
Yeah, exactly. This topic perhaps popped out of discussion we had. It was like a couple of months ago when there were like 4 months left of the year. We saw some people advertising that you could lose like 8 to 16 kilos because there were like 16 weeks left of the year. And that was supposed to be a realistic rate of fat loss. And also if you Google, it's like, what is a healthy rate of weight loss or fat loss? And you frequently come up with, it should be like 0.5 to 1 kilo per week. And it doesn't have any qualifications or anything, is it? So you would assume, okay, so that should be a realistic goal for everyone, but it really isn't, we think. So, I mean, there's more to it than that.
Yeah, definitely. That one of my biggest pet peeves has to do with when we don't put something in context, right? So if someone just says 1 kilo a week is a realistic weight loss, for whom? Who is that realistic for? That's not realistic for a 48 kilo woman. That's
absolutely not.
That maybe is. That maybe isn't even realistic for a 100 kilo man, depending upon a lot of different factors.
Yeah, of course. I mean, depends on your, what kind of athlete you are, depends on your body composition and basically what you're doing. So, and if you care for keeping your performance, or you even want to be performing even better and still be losing weight, then that would be probably way too fast for you.
Exactly. That's how years ago Fiercely Fueled made a name for itself, was that I had dug into the research really hard and started experimenting and found certain percentages of rates of weight loss and played around with it to the point where I nailed it with a percent of rate of weight loss that an athlete could go at, that they would still continue to improve as an athlete. So I think that a lot of people have always thought that if they're in a period of caloric deficit, that they just assume, my performance might take a hit, but it'll come back. Well, what if it doesn't actually have to be that way? What if you could actually get stronger while you're in a caloric deficit? And so that's kind of what we became known for, because we did such a good job with that. And then that's just a lot of that information has come out and been public knowledge. And I've kind of made it my life's work to put this information out there, because I was seeing athletes like just feeling terrible during training, getting weaker during training. I'm like, wait a minute, what's the point of this? Why are we doing this?
Yeah, exactly. And the key thing is give yourself time. And I mean, a lot of people, they want results. They want them fast. They want them now. They want the results before the next meet or the next competition. Give yourself some time, and you will have much more sustainable results. You will have a much more enjoyable meet, full of energy. So, I mean, that's the way to go about it. Given the expectations people have, they will frequently set themselves up for disappointment and failure. And I mean, you go in with a very aggressive diet, and it works maybe for a while, and then it might blow up, and you will rebound very quickly to your previous weight, or even a higher body weight, and you will be pretty unhappy about that, and just feel like that, oh, this is a total failure, I'm a failure, and this is never going to work, and people just give up. It's impossible. So
yeah, that's the number one thing that I see in having worked with people in the nutrition field for 20 years in some fashion, is that people over and over, they've had multiple failed attempts at dieting, or they lost the weight and they gained the weight back, and then they gained back more. And this is over and over and over. And anyone who's ever worked in the nutrition industry has worked with these people. And it's because there's these kind of transformations that have been sold to us for, decades, where we think that a high rate of weight loss is how it's supposed to be, and that is somehow the way to go. Whereas what you really want is a sustainable rate of weight loss where you're doing it for a long enough period of time where life is happening. So anyone can go really hard for 6 to 8 weeks and basically live in a bubble, right? Where they're controlling every bit of food that's coming into their mouth or their house. They're not going out with friends. They're not having holidays. But it's when you really learn to do this and to make this lifestyle and learn the education behind weight loss, you've got to do it while life is happening, not while you're living in an unrealistic bubble.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, you're basically sacrificing everything else if you go on such a restrictive diet. I mean, but you can easily do it. Just give yourself a little bit more time, and you can live a very normal life doing it, and feel much better.
Yeah, and there's tons of weight loss research studies out there that cite that the faster someone loses weight, the more likely they are to gain it back plus more. So my thought is always, well, why would you want to go really fast then if you know that the research shows that you're probably going to gain it back and then more?
Absolutely.
There's also one thing that we need to consider is that the faster you lose weight, the more likely you are losing muscle mass. And so we're going to get into some of these numbers here and actually quantify this stuff for you guys in ways that actually matter for a performance athlete. And then we'll get into some muscle gain too as well, because I know that's always a hot topic for people. And I've seen a ton of misinformation about that as well.
I can also, I mean, relate from my own experience. When I first came to you, I compete in the 105 kilo class, and I was like maybe around 102 or something like that. And I came in saying, oh, I want to go down a few kilos, and then that's how we started out. But I soon realized, okay, I mean, I can go down a few kilos, but is this helping my powerlifting? And I quickly found out, oh no, I went up to maintenance fairly quickly and have stayed there for most of the time. actually been in a little bit of a surplus now. I'm preparing for a meet, I'm more or less weigh the same, but I've had huge changes in body composition and huge changes, positive changes in performance. So you can do so much. You don't have to always be focusing on cutting weight. So you can do so much just staying at maintenance and even in a surplus if that's something that fits.
Absolutely. Yeah, you had incredible body composition changes, which a lot of people think can't happen, that you can't do body recomposition just eating at maintenance and lifting if you're an advanced lifter. You've been lifting a long time and you had these incredible changes. And every time I tell people this, that like, no, I see this happen every day. They're like, oh yeah, but probably only with, one or two athletes and they're outliers. I'm like, no, every single athlete that I work with has experienced this. And I can say now definitively after doing this for a decade that this does work. It just takes a little different mindset, right? You have to, there's a little bit of delayed gratification, and different people are going to lose fat and gain muscle at different rates. There's a lot of things that go into that, right? Like potentially, age is going to be a factor, and stress levels are going to be a factor, and, a lot of different things. Training stimulus, it has to be, you have to be training hard. If you're not training hard and don't have, appropriate progressions built into your training and things like that, well then it's probably not going to happen. But for serious lifters, I see this happen over and over and over. It's really cool.
Yeah, it really surprised me actually how this progressed.
Yeah. So let's talk about some research. There's an article, and I'll link it in the show notes. There's an article that was published in, I've got to remember what journal it was published in now. It was the International Journal of Nutrition and Exercise Metabolism. So this article is a little bit old. It's from 2011, but it's a journal article that I really love because we know, I mean, I've read thousands of research articles at this point, and very rarely do we find articles that talk about how weight loss may affect elite level athletes. That's a really rare thing to find. And that is exactly what this study did. It's one I really like. So I'll link it in the show notes. But essentially what they did was that they had athletes on 4 resistance training sessions per week using their usual training regimen. So nothing with their training changed. And then they had one group who lost weight at a rate of 1% of body weight per week. And that's considered the fast weight loss group. And there was a slow weight loss group that was 0.7% of their body weight loss per week. And what happened when they did this? They looked at their changes in lean body mass. They found that the slower group during that period of time, so it was different periods of time for the groups, right? Because they were losing weight at different rates. So we found that the slower group gained 2.1% of lean body mass while in a caloric deficit. That's pretty good. Yeah. And the fast group lost 0.2% lean body mass. So it suggests that the fast group may have lost muscle mass, whereas the slower group actually gained muscle mass, it appears. So that's kind of right off the bat, like, okay, interesting. You have my attention here.
Yeah, it's a really good point that you can gain muscle mass even if you're in a deficit. So if you play it sensibly, you don't have to lose both fat mass and muscle mass. You can be losing fat mass and gaining muscle mass.
Right. So a lot of the research that's out there on fat loss says, yeah, you're probably going to lose some muscle mass while you're dieting. And that's why you want to have a high protein diet while you're dieting. And that is true. However, I find that most of that research is looking at rates of weight loss that are 1% of body weight loss per week or more. So we know that at that rate, you're likely going to lose muscle. If you go a little bit slower, you probably will not lose muscle. In fact, we know it's possible that you can gain muscle as long as everything's set up properly. So the things that then I thought were really cool is that they looked at their performance measures. So specifically, I want to zone in on their strength because that's 99% of the population we work with are strength athletes. And so they found that their 1 rep max press in the fast group increased by 6.4%, which sounds good. They're like, oh, cool. They got stronger. Their 1 rep max press went up 6.4%. Their their 1 rep max pull went up 4%, and their 1 rep max squat went up 8.9%. So like that all sounds great. They were in a deficit. They might have lost a little bit of muscle mass, but they got stronger. But the rates, the strength gains in the slow group were double, if not more, than the fast group. So the 1 rep max press in the slow group went up 13.6%. The 1 rep max pull went up 10.3%. And their 1 rep max squat went up almost 12%, 11.9%. So
really impressive stuff.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so that's in a caloric deficit. I mean, those people lost, the people in that group lost 31% of their fat mass over 8.5 weeks, and they gained that much strength. So that's one of my favorite research articles because it actually looks at the population of people that we deal with and shows like what happens, not just with your muscle mass, but what's happening with your strength and your performance during that period of time. And so I've actually found in working with athletes for as long as I have and really just experimenting with different rates of weight loss, I would argue that for the majority of lifters, 0.7% of body weight loss per week is still a little bit aggressive. Some athletes, we can get away with it and they do okay, but most athletes, if we go slower, do even better. So I really like somewhere between 0.4 to 0.6% of body weight loss per week for athletes who really care about performance.
Yeah, it's a good point. And I mean, at 0.7, you have even these gains, and I mean, think what you could do with an even slower rate of fat loss. So
absolutely. I think that it's no coincidence that now we've got so much of our coaching roster is just killing it at meets. We just had, I think, at IPF Masters Worlds, we had, I might get this number wrong now. I think we had 5 podium wins, 7 podium finishes, 7 world records. I don't know how many national world records. And that's just at one meet. We've got athletes in many different federations and many different age divisions, right? So it's like kind of incredible that these athletes are putting on, even if they were dieting for the meet, they're putting on incredible strength at a rate that they've never seen before.
Yeah, it was just incredibly fun to see how well they did at the World's Masters recently. I mean, it was really good stuff. And like you said, I mean, even some of them had to take off some weight to fit into the weight class. And I mean, and they even did that well. But that being said, it's like, if you have to take off some weight to fit into your weight class before a meet, it's wise to start early. You would preferably want to not be in a deficit in your final block going into the meet. So
Yes.
you'd rather be at maintenance, and you will do even better.
Yes, that is always my preference, is to start it early. Spend at least your last block in maintenance. People seem to do really well because when you really think about it, that final block, that's where you're pushing your body to its absolute maximum, right? You're getting prepared to hit hopefully a PR on the platform, and you're pushing really, really hard. So we know that recovery is going to be a little bit hindered already. We know that your total calories matters greatly in terms of how well you're recovered. So when you're in a caloric deficit, your body's already not getting everything that it needs to recover properly. When you do that in that final push for a meet, I mean, can people do it? Yes, absolutely. People could. I've done it. Now I know better, and I'll never do it again because I've done it the other way, and my strength is so much better. Like it's okay when I do it that way, when I diet going into a meet, it's okay. But I don't just want okay. I want optimal. I want a PR. I want a lifetime PR at every single meet I go to.
Of course. And then you also get rid of the sort of stress that comes with, will I be in my weight class in time when I'm dieting on the last block? So you'll feel more energetic and get rid of the stress that you're looking at the scale every day. It's like worrying, will I be there in time?
Right. Oh, absolutely. That's one of the worst feelings, is not being sure if you're going to make it. So okay. So realistic rates of weight loss, if you're a performance athlete, somewhere between 0.4 and 0.6% of your body weight loss per week. If you really just care about aesthetics, you could probably go as high as 1%. Just know that that's hard. It's going to be hard. It's going to be harder. There's a cost that comes with that, right? You're probably not going to have a lot of energy to do stuff outside of work in the gym. You're probably going to have some sleep disturbances. You're probably going to have quite a bit of hunger. You're probably not going to have a big desire to train. Your desire to train is probably going to go down. You might start experiencing some moodiness or some irritability. And it's going to be difficult to be successful at that rate while still experiencing life. So if you've got holidays thrown in there, or you've got, say you've got a lot of lunch meetings that you have to go to, or networking events, or just a lot of different things. There's a cost that comes with a high rate of weight loss, a fast rate of weight loss. And so if you slow it down and actually learn how to do life, you'll probably do better.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be your only going project if you do it that restrictively. So, yeah.
Right. Well, and let's not forget that we also have to take into consideration your stress levels and how well are you managing those stress levels. I mean, that's
Absolutely.
one of the
That's a huge factor.
And that's one of the things that we coach people on, that specifically for that reason, because you've got to have proper stress management if you want to succeed as an athlete, but especially if you're in a period of caloric deficit.
Yes, you really have to be focused on your recovery then, and so monitor that quite closely to see if you're doing okay, and you have to be ready to react if it looks like you're coming off the rails.
Yeah, definitely. So let's talk a little bit about realistic rates of muscle gain. This is one where when I talk to athletes about this, especially some guys get really upset about this. And the reason I say guys is only because men tend to feel a little bit more comfortable just wanting to go into a surplus. For women, that tends to be a really scary thing. Although I'm so excited because I have so many women now coming to us like, yeah, I want to put on muscle. Like, give me the food, tell me how to do this, which is really exciting. That's a really big shift just in the last 5 years. But a lot of guys I've talked to, they think that they should be putting on, say, a pound or half a kilo of body weight per week in order to have a successful muscle gain or surplus phase. And I talked to one athlete who said, yeah, I worked with a coach who put me like at a lot lower rate. And I was really disappointed. Like, what was even the point? And I had to show him the research. I was like, well, actually, you're not gaining. If you are trying to gain a pound to a half a kilo a week, which we're actually going to quantify this with percentages here. But if you're trying to gain that much weight per week, you're putting on a significant amount of fat, especially the more advanced you are as a lifter.
Yeah, I mean, I've tried this personally, and you don't have to like go that much into that much of a surplus to do it. So
Right.
it probably a little bit less than you would think. To put on muscle and to make sure that what you're putting on is mostly muscle, but not fat, too much of fat mass going along with it. So
Yeah. And so a lot of that comes down to on what's the intent, what's the intent of the surplus? If the intent is to gain muscle and you don't want to gain very much body fat with that, then we need to set it up exactly like we set up the caloric surplus or the caloric deficit, right? Is to go at a slow rate. We can go fast, but for most athletes, gaining body fat is not going to be advantageous. For some, it will be. For some people that are ultra lean and they're so lean that it's hindering their strength gains, then adding some body fat would be ideal. But if you don't fall into that category, going a lot slower with it is the way to do it. And the added benefit is that, so being in a surplus is a stressor on the body, just like being in a caloric deficit. It's a little bit different. But it comes down to the fact that you're throwing your body out of homeostasis. You're forcing your body to put on muscle tissue, at a rate that is, faster than it would normally do that. So that's something that has to be considered. If you go slow with it, though, you could pretty much just be in a surplus for a very extended period of time because it's such a small amount of surplus.
Yeah, and also if you have this just a tiny bit of a surplus, it also helps your recovery and you just generally feel better when you're training hard.
Yes, absolutely. So that's within doing surpluses, I always have in my mind two different distinctions for how to set someone up in a surplus. There's something called recovery-based surplus, where it's a very tiny surplus. We're really looking at recovery metrics to guide us more so than body weight changes. And then you can have a true, muscle gain surplus where it's maybe going to be a little bit higher percent of body weight put on per week. And we're really going to be monitoring those numbers. But either way around it, your recovery is going to improve, which if your recovery improves, that means you're going to get stronger faster, because one of the limiting steps to increasing your strength at a fast rate is how fast you can recover.
Absolutely.
That's why I always say that that proper performance nutrition is a legal performance enhancing drug, because what are performance enhancing drugs? What are they known for? A lot of them are known for improving your ability to recover.
True. Yeah. Shall we talk about numbers?
Yeah, let's
Muscle
talk about
gain?
some numbers. Yeah. So the we all know that there's these beginner gains that when we all started lifting that were amazing, right? We're putting on strength and muscle at an incredible rate.
Yeah. Just have to
And
look at the barbells and strength and muscles will pop up.
yeah, exactly. So we know that beginner lifters, men can put on muscle about 1 to 1.5% of their body weight per month can be purely muscle. Women is going to be a little bit less than that, about half of that. So 0.5% to 0.75% of body weight per month gained being muscle. And then once those beginner gains go away, things start to slow down. And the numbers that are reported in the research, I think actually my experience with athletes is that they can be a little bit higher than what I'm about to tell you guys. But obviously I've not ran proper research studies to be able to report those numbers. But just know that if you do it right, they could probably be a little bit higher. So the rates reported in the research for intermediate lifters for men is about 0.5 to 0.75% of body weight gained per month. And for women is 0.25 to 0.375% of body weight per month. So that's for an intermediate lifter. An advanced lifter is even slower than that. So 0.25 to 0.375% of body weight for men gained per month, and 0.125 to 0.1875% of body weight per month gained for a female advanced lifter.
Yeah.
That sounds sad.
Yeah, yeah. But then again, I mean, it's just the same as with the weight loss. It's like the small wins are the ones that are sustainable, and you're doing that in a healthy way. And I mean, that's just where the magic is, really. I mean, it's been so much glorified. It's like if you're not doing something really drastic, you're not in the game. But
Right.
I mean, that's not where the smart money is. The smart money is on doing it slowly, doing it sensibly, and you will have something that's sustainable and will stick with you.
I agree 100%, Henrik. That is just always such a good reminder, is that you're in this for the long haul. And so trying to make quick changes isn't going to get you anywhere quicker. In fact, it's probably going to get you further away from your goal.
When you get to be a master's lifter, then you see this much more clearly than when you're a young lifter. It seems you're much more eager to try something drastic when you're young, but once you get a little bit older, you see, I wish I'd known some of that stuff when I was younger.
Yeah, or maybe in which is the case probably for me was I maybe knew better, but I thought, let's just give this a try here. And you find out, oh yeah, okay, maybe that didn't work. I probably should have listened to people that were a little bit smarter than me back then.
Yeah.
But I will just say I want to throw out, because I did say that I think that I have seen our athletes put on strength a little bit faster than some of these numbers reported in research. And some of that comes down to this research that pulls out this muscle gain per month, realistic muscle gain per month, is not done on high level athletes that are training really hard. And so I think that if this training stimulus is appropriately, you're managing your recovery appropriately. And by recovery, I mean your nutrition, your sleep, your stress management, all of that stuff. I see our athletes being able to put on, our intermediate to advanced level athletes, depending on age, to be putting on about 0.2 to 0.3% of their body weight per week being mostly muscle. Now, obviously, age is going to play a factor in that. And if you're over 40, it's probably going to be a little bit slower. If you're an advanced athlete over 40, it's probably going to be even slower than that. But those are just some numbers to kind of think about and play around with. So I think the theme of this episode is all of these transformations that you're about to start seeing online to promote, new year, new you. If they're fast transformations, just throw them out the window. It's not realistic for you as an athlete and is only going to set you up for failure.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to do like 12, 16 weeks of something very restrictive, take a photo before and after, but you never get the story like of the next 12 or 16 weeks. What happened then? What's it like at Easter?
Exactly. And what have you learned in the process? And I think that's our big thing is making sure that athletes are educated in the process so that they're not reliant on a coach to be able to do these things all the time. It's something that theoretically you should be able to manage on your own if you want to. Now, some people don't want to manage it on their own. If, they want someone looking after their recovery metrics and someone holding them accountable and things like that. And that there's absolutely something to be said about that, but it's the kind of thing that you should be able to do it on your own. You just need the proper education and the know-how. And that's a big part, of hiring a coach at some point. I think all coaches have coaches because we all understand the importance of having a coach, and it's like a level jump. You can use their experience to get better faster.
Yeah, coaches need coaches, that's for sure.
Yep. Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us, Henrik. I'm so glad that we finally got to do this episode together, and there will be many more.
Absolutely.
So
thank you so much too, Kristen.
Absolutely. Well, you guys have a fantastic day, and we'll talk to you next time.
Bye-bye.
If you like the show, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to my free email newsletter at guide.fiercelyfueled.com/podcast. In addition to updates, articles, and behind-the-scenes tips from my team and I, my email newsletter subscribers also get my pre- and post-training meals guide to help you position yourself to get stronger faster than you ever thought possible. You can get it all for free at guide.fiercelyfueled.com/podcast. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at Fiercely Fueled Nutrition. And lastly, this show is meant to make the strength world a better, stronger, and healthier place. Please share it with your friends and subscribe to the show.